From the first time Anakin Skywalker stood before the Jedi Council, Mace Windu sensed danger. It wasn't arrogance or rivalry, it was instinct. The boy radiated emotion, an energy that was both powerful and unstable. Mace didn't see a prodigy, he saw volatility wrapped in potential. Even before Anakin's first mission, Mace recognized that power born of fear was never peace. It was delayed destruction. Mace's mistrust wasn't random prejudice. His strength was intuition, not empathy. As a master of Varpad, Mace literally danced with his own darkness. He understood how thin the line between control and chaos could be. When he looked at Anakin, he saw that same edge, that same temptation to channel passion into power. Mace wasn't wrong to fear it. He simply saw too much of his own potential downfall in the boy who would one day fall for real. Anakin's attachment patterns set off every alarm Mace had. Jedi were supposed to love life selflessly, not cling to people like lifelines. But Anakin clung to everyone he loved, to his mother, to Padme, to Obi-Wan. Each bond was charged with emotion. Mace understood that the Force flowed unevenly through those attachments, amplifying both compassion and possessiveness. He wasn't judging the feelings. He was predicting the storm they would cause. What Mace read in Anakin wasn't simple rebellion. It was dependency. Anakin defined himself by connection, which meant loss would always break him. Mace knew that kind of personality could destroy the Jedi from within. He had no context for slavery or trauma. But he didn't need one to sense danger. He simply felt the weight of imbalance, and he called it out long before anyone else did. Mace understood that Anakin's loyalty wasn't to the Jedi Code, it was to people. And in a galaxy where morality had become institutional, that made him unpredictable. Mace valued order. Anakin valued emotion. And Mace knew that a man who fights for emotion eventually breaks when emotion turns against him. The Jedi couldn't survive someone who answered to love more than law. His instincts there were completely right. He also saw the political trap forming before anyone else. Palpatine's influence over Anakin wasn't subtle. Every promotion, every council decision, every word of praise from the Chancellor was part of a manipulation Mace recognized instantly. The problem was that Mace's distrust made Anakin feel accused rather than protected. The truth didn't save him. It alienated him. But that doesn't make the truth less accurate. Mace's greatest strength was his clarity, and his greatest flaw was what that clarity couldn't show him. He saw corruption growing in both the Republic and the Jedi Order, and he knew that Anakin sat at the intersection. To Mace, Anakin wasn't the chosen one. He was a weapon someone else was going to fire. And he wasn't wrong. That's exactly what Palpatine did. Every interaction between them was a collision of philosophies. Mace represented control, through discipline. Anakin represented control through feeling. To Mace, the former was strength, and the latter was chaos. When he told Anakin he was not ready to be a master, it wasn't an insult. It was a warning. He saw the instability that comes from pride mixed with purpose. He knew giving Anakin more authority would only make the fall faster. Even during the Clone Wars, Mace never stopped analysing Anakin's patterns. He saw a soldier, not a saviour, someone defined by victory, not vision. And he knew that kind of man can't survive peace. The moment the war ended, Anakin would need a new purpose. Mace didn't know what that purpose would be, but he knew it wouldn't align with the Jedi. That foresight wasn't cruelty. It was prophecy delivered through realism. Mace's distrust wasn't based on bias. It was based on observation. He saw what others refused to see. Anakin's capacity for greatness and destruction were identical. Every victory made him hungrier. Every success fed his frustration. Mace's instincts told him that the same power that made Anakin unstoppable would one day make him uncontrollable. And that, tragically, was the truth. When Mace faced Palpatine, he knew Anakin's presence was a liability. He didn't say stay out of this because he was dismissive. He said it because he knew Anakin couldn't separate duty from emotion. That insight was painfully correct. Anakin didn't act as a Jedi. He acted as a desperate man trying to save someone he loved. And that was exactly what Mace had feared from the beginning. Mace's final words: "He's too dangerous to be left alive." were not arrogance. They were panic from a man who had finally seen his worst vision realized. He wasn't wrong about the danger. He was just blind to how his own actions would accelerate it. His instincts about Anakin were right. His understanding of how to reach him was not. When Anakin intervened, the prophecy completed itself. Mace's distrust and Anakin's desperation collided in one fatal moment. Everything Mace had warned about unfolded before his eyes. The boy he never trusted fulfilled every fear he ever voiced. The tragedy isn't that Mace misjudged him, it's that Mace was right all along, but too rigid to save what he understood. Mace Windu was right about Anakin Skywalker. He just didn't realize that being right wouldn't be enough. He could predict the darkness but not prevent it. His instincts were accurate. His heart simply wasn't built for mercy. Mace Windu's misjudgment of Anakin didn't come from malice. It came from limitation. He saw danger clearly, but he never understood the emotional architecture underneath it. For Mace, emotion was a hazard that required containment. For Anakin, emotion was identity. That gap shaped every conflict between them. Not because Mace was entirely wrong, but because he interpreted every warning sign through a lens that didn't fit Anakin's reality. Anakin's fear read to Mace like instability because the Jedi Order had no framework for trauma that didn't conform to doctrine. Anakin's childhood as a slave, his lived experiences with powerlessness, and his attachment to the few people he trusted were foreign to Mace's worldview. Instead of recognizing trauma responses, he categorized them as defiance. He diagnosed symptoms because he lacked the tools to identify the underlying wound. Mace believed discipline was the universal solution, but every attempt to impose discipline on Anakin hit the very part of him that was already hurting. When Mace enforced rules, Anakin felt punished. When Mace withheld trust, Anakin felt abandoned. When Mace demanded composure, Anakin experienced it as invalidation. Mace wasn't wrong that Anakin was dangerous, he was wrong about why that danger existed. The Jedi Council saw Anakin as a potential asset with risks attached. Mace saw him as a liability with benefits attached. That perspective shaped every decision he made. While Yoda tried to guide Anakin through philosophy, and Obi-Wan tried through familiarity, Mace engaged through suspicion. He was the rare Jedi, unwilling to bend methods for individual needs. In war, that rigidity created control. In mentorship, it created fractures. The tension between Mace and Anakin escalated not because one of them was malicious, but because they were fundamentally incompatible. Anakin sought reassurance. Mace offered scrutiny. Anakin needed connection. Mace offered boundaries. Anakin grew through empathy. Mace grew through discipline. Both men were products of their environments, one shaped by freedom lost, the other shaped by order preserved. Palpatine understood this divide perfectly. Every doubt Mace expressed became an opportunity to widen the psychological gap. When Mace pushed Anakin away, Palpatine pulled him closer. When Mace denied recognition, Palpatine offered validation. Mace did not create Anakin's fall, but he unknowingly curated the environment that allowed corruption to thrive. His insight into danger ironically accelerated the danger itself. The moment Mace asked Anakin to spy on Palpatine sealed the emotional dynamic between them. It was not a tactical request. It was a violation of trust. Anakin wasn't being guided, he was being weaponized. Mace believed the mission was necessary to expose corruption. But from Anakin's perspective, it was confirmation that the Jedi viewed him as a tool, not a person. That emotional breach mattered more than any strategic insight. During the arrest of Palpatine, Mace's instincts were sharp, but his worldview was narrow. He saw a Sith Lord manipulating the Republic and a student compromised by attachment. What he missed was the psychological divide his own decisions had deepened. By refusing to include Anakin, he unintentionally made Palpatine the only person Anakin felt connected to at the moment of crisis. Mace was right about the danger, but unable to see how much of it came from his own rigid approach. When Mace declared that Palpatine was too dangerous to live, it was a statement born from fear and necessity, but also from emotional exhaustion. He had spent years watching the Order deteriorate, the Senate distort, and Anakin oscillate between brilliance and instability. But in that moment, Mace acted as a soldier, not a Jedi. His decision reflected the collapse of the institution he had dedicated his life to. He became the embodiment of what Anakin feared most. Anakin didn't attack Mace because he believed Palpatine was innocent. He attacked because Mace represented the final confirmation of the Jedi's failings in his eyes. That moment wasn't a duel between good and evil. It was a collision between two people who never understood one another. Mace feared Anakin's potential. Anakin feared Mace's authority. Both fears were valid. Both fears were fatal. Mace's tragedy is that he was right about the outcome but wrong about the interpretation. He predicted the danger but misunderstood the cause. He saw the dark side in Anakin but never saw the vulnerability that fed it. He responded to symptoms with discipline instead of compassion. And because he never adjusted his approach, his insight became a prophecy he accidentally helped fulfill. The Jedi Order shared the same flaw. They assessed Anakin through roles, abilities, and expectations, not emotions. Mace embodied the height of that flaw, brilliance without understanding. His leadership preserved the Order in war, but weakened it in spirit. When confronted with someone who did not fit the mold, he couldn't adapt, and the Order paid the price for that failure. In the balcony chamber, Mace and Anakin both reached the end of their arcs. Mace acted out of fear, disguised as certainty. Anakin acted out of desperation, disguised as loyalty. Neither man was evil, neither man was entirely wrong, but both were trapped in an institution collapsing under the weight of its own rigidity. Mace wasn't wrong to distrust Anakin, but he was wrong in believing distrust alone could prevent disaster. Mace Windu's instincts about Anakin were accurate, but his reasoning fractured the very connection that might have saved them both. Insight without empathy created the fall he feared. He saw the threat but never understood the person behind it, and in the end, being right was the most tragic mistake he ever made.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.